He was only now starting to find his stride in life. Johnson's new boss, Henry Weigel, was a tyrant who ran a tight, Spartan company. Weigel would pinch a penny until it screamed. At first, Johnson managed to avoid Weigel's wrath. He delivered results and was out of the country half the time, visiting the company's far-flung international operations. But Johnson's flamboyant style guaranteed an eventual collision with his indomitable boss. Always drawn to celebrities, Johnson soon befriended the former football star Frank Gifford, then announcing Monday Night Football and pitching ads for Standard Brand's Dry Sack Sherry. Through Gifford, he met an array of big names: football commissioner Pete Rozelle, race car mogul Roger Penske, broadcast buddy Don Meredith, Roone Arledge, who headed ABC Sports. The Giffer, the glitz, the contacts, Johnson thrived. Beaten down Standard Brands executives rallied around this buoyant newcomer. So too did he become a favorite of the Standard Brands board. They rewarded him by naming him a director in 1974 and promoting him to president a year later. In 1976, the board named Johnson chief operating officer, making him Weigel's clear heir apparent. Weigel, who had torpedoed successors before, dispatched a team of auditors to Canada. Eventually, Weigel learned of Johnson's huge New York limo tab, which the company was picking up. He began gathering information on Johnson's extramarital affairs. Johnson, meanwhile, prepared for war. A headhunter who gathered employee intelligence for Weigel became a double agent, also reporting to Johnson. It all came to a head on a Friday morning in mid-May, when the directors convened. Both men addressed the board, and then Johnson left the room while the board caucused. When he returned, Weigel was no longer in the chairman's spot at the head of the table. Ross Johnson had command of a New York Stock Exchange company. Afterward, he and the merry men toasted their victory with martinis late into the night. It had, they agreed, been a splendid coup. It wouldn't be their last. After Weigel's ouster, staid old Standard Brands became Phi Delta Johnson. Gone was the prohibition on first-class travel. In no time, Johnson leased a corporate jet and acquired a company-owned Jaguar. Overnight, the corporate culture was transformed into a facsimile of Johnson's flip, breezy manner. Johnson had no use for long meetings when short ones would do, or when he was due on a golf course. For that matter, he had no use for traditional business hours. Johnson firmly believed that true inspiration and insight happen only after hours. Babies, he liked to say, are only born at night. On a typical evening, Johnson and his merry men would knock off around 7:30 and head out en masse for the night shift. They'd stake out a table at Minucci's and drink until it closed, convening afterwards at Johnson's new company-owned apartment, where they'd order out for pizza or Chinese. It was, Johnson recalled, like Boys Town. Many executives saw their salaries doubled. Pay at Standard Brands went from the bottom of the industry barrel to the top of the heap. Johnson didn't stop there. In the months following Weigel's departure, he had the company pay for his membership in 18 different country clubs. Standard Brands, which had no corporate apartments under Weigel, had 18 by the time Johnson was through. Always a big tipper, Johnson took to keeping a bulging wad of what he called whip money, large bills that could be readily whipped out of his suit pocket. Johnson's immediate business challenge at Standard Brands was to keep it from collapsing. He tried to compensate for the company's poor showing by devising jazzy new products, an effort that led to what one analyst called some of the most celebrated failures in the food industry, like the ill-fated Reggie candy bar, named for one of Johnson's newest friends, baseball star Reggie Jackson. Through the rough times, the Standard Brands board never rapped its young chief's knuckles. Johnson, mindful of Weigel's fate, treated the directors like kings. Only occasionally would his loud wardrobe or blue language push the board's limits. The party at Standard Brands went on like that for 4 years, constant upheaval, a string of marketing disasters, ho-hum profits, but lots of fun, money, and perks for Johnson and his friends. But then Johnson became restless. It was as if Standard Brands was a toy he'd gotten for Christmas, and having played with it for a while, he was getting bored. Part of his disaffection was due to the fact that Johnson, now moving into his late 40s, was no longer the boy wonder of the mid-70s. The idea of becoming a sedate corporate elder made him shiver. What was needed, it was clear, was a new adventure. The opportunity came in a curious phone call from a fellow chief executive in March 1981, Bob Shaverly, chairman of the food giant Nabisco. In a matter of weeks, the two executives agreed to merge their companies. Nabisco Brands, as the new company would be called, was formed in a $1.9 billion stock swap, at the time one of the larger mergers of consumer product companies. Technically, it was a marriage of equals, but that was considered so much chin music. Everyone knew Nabisco, with dominant brands such as Ritz and Oreo, was the more powerful company.